if you don't have the charisma or the talent to be a communicator, then make sure that you surround yourself through your team or through your partners and suppliers and advertising and marketing and PR agencies with people who understand communication and they know how to deliver this communication on your behalf.
George Kotsolios, thank you so much for joining me on 20-Minute Leaders. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's a pleasure to meet you and pleasure to be here.
It's a very, very big pleasure of mine. There's going to be some interesting lessons that we're going to learn today together. So we have to get started because we only have 20 minutes. George, tell me a little bit about yourself. You're a lot into communications, public relations in the international spectrum. Your business is primarily in Dubai, which I'm very excited to be visiting in just a few hours. So I'm extremely excited to talk to you here. Before that, George, who are you?
Okay, well, I've been in PR communications for the last 26, 27 years, but instead of me starting off from the beginning, I'd rather start from the end because that's, I think, where the interest for you and the audience who will hopefully be spending 20 minutes of their life to watch you and me having a chat would be more interested in.
Wonderful.
And that's because 3 years ago, I had just turned 50 when I actually launched my own company. In effect, I became an entrepreneur at the age of 50. You know,
not very common.
Yes, 26, 27 years of career, and all of a sudden I opened my own company. But the reasons that I did that were purely existential because, you know, I had just been made redundant and I needed income to continue supporting for myself and my family. So
Wow.
This is when I decided that, okay, it's maybe time to try something of my own, effectively become my own boss. And there you have it. And I guess lesson number one is it's never too late. You don't really need to get your master's degree or PhD from Stanford University and jump on the bandwagon of entrepreneurship all at once. Try and pace yourself. Go out, experience life, get a real job, learn. And the time will come when you are going to feel ready, the circumstances are going to be ready, and the timing is going to be the right one for you to go and reach out for your dreams.
Right.
Now, yes, sorry, you wanted to ask something, Michael?
I have to get into the mindset of 50 years old, existential threat. You need to bring income for yourself and your family, and you're saying, why don't I start a business? Why don't I become an entrepreneur? This is something that a lot of 21, 22-year-olds say, not so many 50-year-olds. I think that's pretty inspiring. So I'd love to just understand a little bit better your thought process as you're making that big decision, that big leap.
Yeah, well, I mean, the number one thing that I believe any entrepreneur must have, no matter what age he or she is or how old they are and feel, is passion and experience and deep understanding and knowledge of the area of the sector that they are about to embark on. So
Right.
In my case, as you introduced me earlier, I have a long experience in PR, communications, journalism. That's what I was trained to do, and that's what I've been doing for a quarter of a century or more during my career. And I took that passion and I turned it into my own startup. Now, the good thing was that not only did I continue to do what I knew very well doing for such a long time, but in a way, I rediscovered my mojo, for a lack of a better experience.
Wow.
And that happened because my first clients when I opened my company happened to be a young, aspiring tech startup entrepreneur back in Dubai, where I am still am. This guy had a long experience working for other startups until he took a decision one day to open his own health tech startup company. He had the knowledge, the experience, and the passion which he conveyed to me. There were days that we were having long arguments about petty things, but that helped me understand and realize how passionate he was feeling about his own company.
Wow.
And I guess that is a second lesson, Michael, for our viewers today. It's without the passion and without the experience, having done the journey before, not necessarily as an entrepreneur, but working for others, it's going to be a difficult thing. It's going to be dangerous. It's not going to be as fluent as it will feel once you have this passion inherently inside you.
Right. So you're talking that experience was pivotal in your ability to streamline your work, to know what you're doing, to be fluent with your business, and to actually be successful in it because you're actually providing value. So what is the business that you started as an entrepreneur at 50 years old, and what skills did you bring with you from your previous work life?
So what I do, is basically developing content, developing messaging, developing positioning, developing campaigns, public relations campaigns that generate what we call in my language, in my industry, earned publicity. So it's not like advertising where you go and pay Time Magazine or New York Times or Gulf News, which is closer to where I live, in order to place an advert in the pages. This is publicity that you earn through public relations tactics. And then that is what I do. And public relations is very, very important. In fact, your question brings me to the third lesson I'm going to sort of share with our audience today. So having the timing right for you to open it is number one. Then having the experience and the passion to do it is number two. But then being able to communicate your passion and communicate this vision of yours effectively across your stakeholder universe, which once you launch your company is going to be comprising of a very diverse group of people, including your employees, including your B2B partners, including your B2C consumers who you want them to download your app, including your regulators, stakeholders, government stakeholders, all the way to investors. You need to be able to communicate these to the different audiences. And basically, that is the third lesson. If you don't have the charisma or the talent to be a communicator, then make sure that you surround yourself through your team or through your partners and suppliers and advertising and marketing and PR agencies with people who understand communication and they know how to deliver this communication on your behalf.
Right. So, I'm surrounded by a lot of young entrepreneurs. Communication is not, I wouldn't say that it's our forte. I think that coming from more of an engineering background and being excited about the product and technology is one thing. But like you're mentioning, our success often depends on our ability to communicate. And it doesn't really matter how good our product is. If we're not able to communicate that, it's meaningless.
It's what makes differentiates a successful startup from a failure. I mean, there's plenty of studies out there, but one that has really stuck with my mind is that out of the hundreds startup companies that they are launched globally, 97 will fail. Just 3 of them will make it a successful exit or a successful acquisition or maybe go to have an IPO. Just 3%. And I believe firmly that the key quality, the differentiating factor between those who make it and those don't is the ability to successfully communicate the vision, the passion, the solution, and the technology. Because technology is pretty much the same. Solutions are pretty much the same because we've got similar problems, right? It's how you communicate your solution to the various stakeholders you want to engage with that differentiates you from the crowd. Michael, you just mentioned you work for a VC. I've got a VC client who is actually based out of Greece. They deal with a lot of European as well as Dubai and UAE based startups. And the single thing he keeps telling me that he and his team are looking into a young tech startup entrepreneur who sends them their decks for evaluation in order for the fund to invest in them is to be able to communicate effectively. That is the number one, because the solution is here today in one shape and form. Trust me, a year or two down the line, the package is going to look differently.
100%. 100%. So George, give me a little bit of insight what it means to communicate effectively, because obviously it's a lifelong skill that takes a lot of expertise and a lot of experience, but there must be some things that we as young entrepreneurs can embrace to be more cognizant of it and to really make sure that the other side is understanding the value that we're trying to provide. So what are some ways that we as young entrepreneurs can better communicate effectively?
Absolutely. This is a process, Michael. It doesn't happen overnight. You need to have in place resources, budgets, and a robust plan that eventually is going to take you there, eventually going to help you communicate better. Let me start with the three basic steps of the process. The first basic step is to be able to, let's say, set your true north, okay? What do I mean by that? You need to be able to develop a positioning for your tech startup, an overarching positioning that resonates simultaneously with every single different target group you are trying to engage with. And once you have this solid in your mind, then what you need to do is to develop what we call in our business a key messaging platform, which is, imagine like a house. Okay, I'll try to make it a picture for you.
Please.
Imagine you've got a house. There is a roof on top of the house. Inside this roof, this is where your overarching positioning statement about your humble tech startup is, okay? Which actually tells where you want to go. What is the solution that you are developing? Why you are the best person and your best company to bring it to market, okay?
Right.
And under this, let's say, roof, you've got windows, okay? Now, depending on the complexity of your tech startup, you are going, and the number of stakeholder audiences that you want to impact, you will have an equivalent number of windows, right? Now, in the cases that I have dealt with, and I have dealt with startups from the health tech industry, from the last mile delivery industry, from the fintech industry, the food industry, e-commerce, you name it, I've done it all. The number of target audiences varies between 3 and 5, depending on the complexity. The 3 key audiences are usually B2B, which means these are the partners that you want to influence to bring over. Number 2 is the consumer, the people that they are going to be making use of your application, whether you are a health tech or a food delivery app. And the third is the investors, because startups, they need to encourage investment from VCs, from private equity firms, from individual investors, and so on and so forth. So for each of these 3, let's say, key target audiences, then you need to have another opening statement that resonates uniquely to them. Okay? And once you communicate uniquely to them, then you need to have what we call a series of 3, no more, key messages that bring that sub-opening to life. It sounds a little bit complicated. If it's not very clear, please ask me to explain it again.
No, it's perfectly clear. And the thing that makes most sense is the fact that you need to make it unique to the person that you're talking to. I'm assuming that one of the biggest pitfalls of entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, is that you're using the same messaging, the same deck, the same PR release to every single person, but that's not necessarily the message that they want to hear, and you have to stand out from the crowd.
You got it exactly right. You know, the message that the investor wants to hear is completely different to the one that the consumer wants to hear, and definitely not similar to the one that the B2B audience wants to hear, right? So that is the philosophy that I have brought and I have developed to communicate, to develop rather the messaging for my tech startup clients. So that is the first step of the process. Once you've got this all done and dusted and signed off by the client, then the next step is what we call media training and message delivery. Then we sit with the tech startup founder and co-founders and owners, and we take them through a rigorous 4-hour session. The last few months we've been doing it over Zoom, but previously, of course, it was physical meetings where we have on the backdrop, the deck that we have developed for the messaging, and then we take them through a process which includes a number of real life case studies, explaining to them the difference between a good interview and a bad interview. Then we take them through practical sort of workshops where we try them, how they answer a question before they go through the training, and how then they answer it at the end. So because, as we said earlier, communication is key. It's great to have the positioning right, the messaging right, but if you don't have it naturally, if you're not a natural communicator, then this media training helps people to help them to organize their thoughts and help them to sort of know what to say, when to say it, and what not to say, which is also very, very important.
That sounds a lot. That sounds very important.
And the third step is engagement, right? So once we've got the messaging right, once we've got the training all sorted, then it's time to engage with our universe, stakeholder universe. And that includes a number of stakeholders. It could be, for instance, a panel discussion over Zoom, where the tech startup entrepreneur will go and be part of the panel. So he needs to have his messaging there, available in his mind, and be able to deliver the right message. It could be a TEDx speech, being there 10, 15 minutes, talking about the solution, the problem, but also making it relevant to his company, right? Or it could be a media interview, a live TV or live radio, which is very, very unforgiving, by the way, because if you say something live on telly, on radio, and it's wrong, then, halas, it's not going to fly, obviously. But also what we do as a company, as a business, is then we package this information depending on the occasion and into what we call press releases or feature articles. And then we take this written information and we work with our media contacts to make sure that we place them in the magazines, in the newspapers, in online publications, and so on and so forth. And that's how we start developing the visibility, the awareness that I am here, I am the owner of this company, my company does X, Y, and Z, we are solving this problem. And that's how eventually you are going to get noticed. Otherwise, it doesn't matter if you have the best solution, as long as nobody knows it, it's not going to be good enough.
I love it, George. That was inspiring and fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing from your experience. I think most of all, it's just it's inspiring to see somebody that is so passionate about what they do, and your passion stands out from every word that you said here today. So thank you very much for that. I want to thank you for being so generous with your time. And before we leave, I have to ask you for 3 words that you would use to describe yourself.
Oh, Ouch. Okay. You got me there. Okay. I would say curious is one. And that comes from my journalism background. I started as a journalist, and journalism and PR is very, very sort of relevant in a way, because
Yeah.
if you know how to write as a journalist, then you know how to write about everything. So curious is one, and I would also say inquisitive, which is pretty much similar to curiosity. So that's two. You got the third one as well.
Well, the third one I think I'm gonna grant myself, which is passionate, because I've done over 250 of these episodes, and I can see very clearly the passion that you're bringing towards this, and it's just remarkable. So thank you for that.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you.